So now, ladies and gentlemen, live and in colour, it's Mr. Wayne Lovejuice.
The other day our producer Louis had a chat with an interesting chappie who said that the YouTube algorithms really aren't that happy if a channel only broadcasts once a week, so we decided we could text ya whenever we've got a piece of news in our new book on the track extra. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs and this is Archie, the CFZ dog. I'm the director of an organisation called the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and in between being trampled upon by a veritable army of cats and dogs, well, 4 cats and 1 dog, I spend my life trying to be the ringmaster of the CFZ circus and keeping the show on the road. And part of the way we do the show on the road is that every Wednesday evening for about a quarter of an hour and every Saturday afternoon at 3 for about half an hour we bring you a web TV show about hard science, weird shit, and my finger's gone round, and surreality. What's surreality, Archie?
Look, Dad, the cats are being very naughty. They're all wearing elephant costumes and blowing bubbles. I think it's a bit pretentious.
The other day, Steve Baxter, who you, I'm sure, remember as a friend of the show and who is the editor of Bigfoot Quest magazine, sent me a 20-minute video from YouTube that contained this footage. This footage was taken in a lake in Chile and does appear to show an enormous creature, unlike anything known to be living in that lake, that is moving along the surface of the water.
Video. In January 22nd, Andres was fishing with a couple of friends in Lago Ranco, which is a very big lake and 200 meters deep, so who knows exactly what roams beneath this lake.
Whilst Lago Ranco is an enormous lake, it's still only the 4th largest in Chile. Now, it's interesting to note here, if you look at the map, the lake is fairly isolated, and also there is no sign of a current waterway connecting it to the Pacific Ocean. Back during the Miocene period there was such a thing, but an awful lot can change in a geological ether. Well, the story is more than slightly complicated, but as far as I can ascertain, Andreas Rothin is a young man who was out fishing on the lake, and this was, according to the video which I was sent, on January the 22nd. And here we have the first of a whole string of problems. It says 22nd of January, but is that 22nd of January this year, or could perhaps there be another explanation? The timbre and wording and presentation of the voiceover do suggest that it may well have been done by one of the online voice changing machines, the things that you can type in a speech to and they will give it back to you read out by a robot in MP3 format. I've not used them myself, so I can't tell you how good they are, but it does seem there's something distinctly weird about the voiceover, and so I don't think it was done by a human. Now I'm sure lots of you are going to say, what, John Downs believes that the voiceover from an obscure TikTok and then YouTube video is done by aliens? Well, no, not aliens, but quite possibly one of the plethora of AI bots which are surfacing all the way across the internet and which threaten to change our lives forever. Well, so what if it was done by an AI bot, I hear you ask? And here, boys and girls, I'm bracing myself against the furniture in order to be able to withstand the torrent of hate mail that this next statement is going to bring. But possibly the person who made this original video, English was not his or her first language, just possibly. And I'm perfectly aware that there is no international law saying that everybody in the world should speak English. Blah, 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 colonial imperialism, blah, 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 slave trade, blah, 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 racism and everything else you can think of. No, I think it's quite likely that the person who originally made the entertaining video used an AI bot to do the voiceover because his or her English wasn't up to scratch. And so they wrote the caption in their own language and put it through Google Translate, and then sent Google Translate's completed text to the AI bot. So, although we know the location where this incident took place, we don't know for sure anyway the time or the date. My best guess is that it took place in January of 2022 rather than on the 22nd of January this year. Now let's look at the video itself, because whatever it is that is depicted here, it's certainly not an animal that is known to live in this inland lake. My first thought is that it looked like one of the great whales. However, there are no known species of great whale in fresh water, and, as already noted, this lake is quite a long way from the sea. And in the second piece of footage, which was taken allegedly a few days later, it looks like a giant swimming snake. Now there are two cryptids that have been reported from this lake. First of all, the Culebron, which is supposed to be a giant non-poisonous snake, and the Cuero, which is apparently akin to the water tiger that we spoke about in a recent episode. The Culebron is a gigantic snake from South American mythology, which is named after the Culebra, a giant snake dragon from Spanish mythology. And it's interesting in view of what we were saying about the way that we hypothesized that European folklore had made its way via missionaries to what was then German Southwest Africa and is now Namibia. It does appear that the same thing has happened here. But it is very interesting that in a lake where, allegedly at least, there have been a whole string of sightings of a gigantic serpent, hey presto, here is a video allegedly of a gigantic serpent in the same lake. Coincidence? Well, according to Tony, there's no such thing as a coincidence. I went to the excellent Patagonian Animals blog, and there's going to be a link in the show notes below, and it told me far more than I already knew about the Cuero. In a book written by Father Juan Ignacio Molina in 1810, there is the following passage. The locals are sure that in certain Chilean lakes there is an enormous fish or dragon that they name Cuero or Diejovilu, that is Valpanaque or fox snake, which they say is man-eating, and for this reason they abstain from swimming in the water of those lakes. But they're not in agreement with the appearance that they give it. Now they make it long like a serpent with a fox head, and then now almost circular like an extended bovine hide. If it was so, it would come to be a species of manta of a monstrous race. Although there are no known species of freshwater manta ray, there are freshwater stingrays, and there are two groups of them. The first do come from South America, but are relatively modest in size, which is why you can see them quite often for sale in the more adventurous tropical fish shops, even here in the UK. The second family, however, is found in Australia, Africa, and parts of Asia, and includes the largest freshwater ray, which is the one that is found in the Mekong River in Southeast Asia, and that is truly enormous. It's interesting that in many of the accounts given by Senor Lopez in this wonderful website, the term cattle hide or sheep's hide comes up again and again and again. So what on earth, in fact what the blinkety flip, could this creature be? Well, I can't tell you what it is. I have absolutely no idea, but I can tell you what it's not. Some of the suggestions that were made online for this video are ridiculous. It's an alien. No, it's not. It's a giant. A giant what? It's a Komodo dragon. No, it's not, because Komodo dragons are only found on 2 or 3 small islands in Indonesia, not in a lake in South America. And indeed, as far as I am aware, there are no monitor lizards at all in South America. It's a crocodile. No, it's too cold and too high up. I even saw somebody mention the idea it could be hippopotamus. Well, there are hippopotami in various parts of South America which have escaped or been released from the private menageries of various drug lords, but this isn't what this is. Like I said at the beginning, it looks more like a whale than anything else I can think of, but there ain't no freshwater whales of this size. And I think if there had been an enormous air-breathing mammal living in the lake, that somebody would have had a more concrete sighting of it sooner. Now, I want to say a big thank you to everybody. I'm sorry that in this episode I have been slurring my words and they're wobbling around. I'm sure this is the sort of thing which in the bad old days somebody would have said, "Oh, it's John Downes, he's obviously drunk again." Well, I haven't been drunk for nearly a year, and I haven't had more than a teensy bit of alcohol ever in that time. I'm now as close to being teetotal as it's possible to be without being. That's an incredibly complicated sentence, but you know what I mean. No, I'm very ill at the moment, and I'm very wobbly, and under normal circumstances, and if I'd been a normal presenter, I would have probably said, "Sorry, I'm going to bed, somebody else can do it." But this is actually the thing I enjoy doing most in my life, and so I decided to let myself do it, warts and all, purely because it is therapy for me. I've got no idea what's wrong with me. I suspect that because I injured my feet so badly some months ago, that all my body's resistances and all my body's efforts have gone into helping my feet heal up, which they are now beginning to do properly. And as a result, I am completely run down. I think that's very likely, because I'm very tired and in a lot of pain. But I wasn't going to let that stop me talking about the weird animals in a lake in South America, because when Steve Baxter sent me that video, and he also sent it to Richard Freeman, none of us have even more than the slightest idea what it can be. So thank you, Steve, and I want to thank the people but for whom this show wouldn't have been made, mostly Graham, who, as well as being Deputy Director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, is my carer and has been so for about 25 years. and now that means he has the unenviable task of pushing me around the labyrinthine corridors of various North Devon hospitals in my wheelchair. So thank you, Graham. I really couldn't function without you. And thank you very much to Louis, my producer. And thank you very much to Judy, Miss Judy, who keeps the house in such an enviably nice condition. Thank you, and much love to all three of you. Now, I'll be back on Saturday. What's happening on Saturday? The trouble is, I've actually recorded this one. I've even posted this one. But what is it? I can't remember. So let's just have a quick look on my clever book of stuff. What have we got? Book of stuff. Here we go. By the way, when I say book of stuff, what I actually mean is the YouTube studio software. It is going to be Canadian cryptids, rock apes and flying snakes, and my guests are going to be David Scott, Richard Freeman and Richard Muirhead. It's a very good episode, and I very much look forward to watching it with you all. Now, I will also be back next Wednesday, but what's that going to be? I have absolutely no idea, because we've just finished this Wednesday. And like it says in the Bible, sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. So, are you ready, McQuillan? It only behooves me to say, are you there, McQuillan? Because if you're going to be here next Saturday and next Wednesday, I certainly will be seeing you.